Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
It's our career unit for the month of April. We're talking about a possible career that you might choose, although I don't think this particular career pays a lot of money, but it would be very meaningful if you could get a job in this career, say in a museum or in some kind of national archive or something. It is the job of a curator.
It's like most of the best or most interesting jobs out there. You don't make a lot of money, especially when you first start out. But as you get better at it, curators who are world famous or who work at the best museums, they make a lot of money. But when you first start out, oh, wow, they don't pay anything. It's like that with the publishing world. You know, a lot of people like to be in the world of books and they like to edit. There's not a lot of money when you first start out. Or PR, which is also interesting. There's no money when you start out. So if you can just hang in there, and pay your dues, then eventually you'll have a career you love and you'll make some money.
Right. I guess you could have a rich husband who works in finance or something like that so that you can do a job like this and not really have to worry about money or something. But in any case here, we're talking about the career of curators, and they bring museums to life. Let's find out what this is all about. Let's listen to our article now read from top to bottom. Have you ever wondered who decides what we see in a museum, or how one artwork seamlessly connects to the next? Behind every thoughtfully arranged gallery space stands a curator, a skilled professional who combines art and storytelling to craft meaningful experiences. The term curator originates from the Latin word cura, meaning to care. Curators were originally caretakers of museum collections, but over time, their role has grown to include a broad range of responsibilities that extend far beyond preservation. Today, curators manage, organize, and interpret collections in cultural institutions like museums and libraries. They research, acquire, and catalog items, while also planning exhibitions that emphasize particular themes, artists, or historical periods. In their work, curators collaborate closely with conservators, educators, and designers to create displays that are both engaging and informative, enhancing the public's appreciation of each collection. Curators often specialize in fields such as art, science, or history, each requiring distinct expertise. An art curator, for instance, might focus on assembling works for a modern art exhibition, while a science curator might arrange natural specimens to educate and inspire viewers. The role of a curator is fulfilling but challenging. The field is highly competitive, with limited positions available, especially in smaller institutions or for specific types of collections. Financial constraints are another hurdle, as the nonprofit sector often offers lower salaries, which can be particularly challenging for those just starting their careers. Looking ahead, curatorship is evolving alongside technology. Artificial intelligence and virtual reality are opening new doors for exhibition design, while social media is transforming how art reaches audiences. Yet, the essential skills of critical thinking, cultural awareness, and artistic insight remain at the heart of this role. The next time you visit a museum or gallery, take a moment to appreciate the curator's vision that makes each exhibit come alive.
Let's get started, guys. Let's take a look at the title, How Curators Bring Museums to Life. How do they take all of those objects, those precious things that we've collected over the years and sometimes over the decades and centuries, and arrange them in a way that makes things look like they're, in the day that they originally were used, that bring more people into those museums to check it out, to check out the exhibitions. We're going to talk about those. A curator is what we're talking about as a career. How do you get into this line of work? What do they do? What does it take to be a curator?
Indeed, and it kind of makes me imagine what the curator at the National Palace Museum does with that huge collection they have stored in the vaults in the mountain behind the museum there. They've got thousands upon thousands of objects there, and they need to come up with some ideas for exhibitions and organize everything It's probably a monumental task. Now, here in the first paragraph, it says, have you ever wondered who decides what we see in a museum or how one artwork seamlessly connects to the next? So yes, indeed, museums have different kinds of exhibitions. Every so often, maybe every 3 or 4 months or so, they have a new exhibition. But do you stop to think, who thought of this exhibition? Who came up with this idea? And how did they organize all this stuff? And then, of course, they also need to think about how one artwork seamlessly connects to the next. We're talking about the arrangement of works of art in the museum so that they relate to each other. It's kind of like how people put record albums together. What song is first, which one follows that, what's the end of the first side, and then you turn it over to the other side if you're listening to LPs. But it's kind of a similar concept. Mm-hmm. How do they arrange everything so it flows smoothly?
Mm-hmm. That's what seamless is. That's something smooth and you can't see any seams or connections. If you sew clothes, ladies or guys out there, you take 2 pieces of fabric and you sew a seam to connect them. So something seamless, it's usually a piece of fabric where there are no lines that you can see. So they're talking about just something that's really smooth, seamlessly. So behind every thoughtfully arranged gallery space stands a curator. It's a curator who does this sort of work. And there's not just one curator for the entire museum. There's a curator for each section of the museum, depending on what they're focusing on. A gallery, of course, is where you go and you see all of these objects, these priceless objects arranged for public viewing. A gallery. You can also say a gallery is a place where you go and buy a piece of artwork. Maybe there's a gallery that is focused on sculptures, so you go and you see all the different pieces that are available for sale. But a museum, of course, you can't buy those things. They are not for sale. They're priceless.
Indeed. And, of course, gallery space is arranged by a curator. So behind those galleries stand a curator, a skilled professional who combines art and storytelling to craft meaningful experiences. Mm-hmm. So again, behind this stands a curator. We often use this pattern. I think they used to say, behind every successful man is a woman, or stands a woman. To stand, in this particular case, does not mean they're standing up as opposed to sitting down. It just means they're there. It's their responsibility. They are responsible for this, or they're the cause of this particular exhibition. Professional, of course, is somebody who gets paid for what they do. Okay, if you don't, you're an amateur. Like you might be an amateur golfer, for example. You play golf, but you don't do it as a job. But if you're like Tiger Woods or somebody like that, then you are a professional golfer. And here, a curator is a professional. It's an actual job. And this particular job combines art and storytelling to craft these experiences. So here, if you craft something, this is a verb here. It just means you kind of construct something very creatively, very cleverly. You can craft art, for example. Although it's not used as a verb as often as it's used as a noun, like, for example, arts and crafts, for example. You might do macrame or knitting or things like that. Those are arts and crafts, but here craft is being used as a verb.
Yeah, we're trying to give you the impression that something is done with a lot of originality, a lot of creativity, as Tom was saying. And that's what these curators do. They're quite creative. The term curator originates or comes from the Latin word cura, or cura, depending how you want to say it, cura, meaning to care. You care about these things. So curators were originally just caretakers. They were the ones who made sure these museum artifacts and pieces of art were preserved and taken care of, that they weren't destroyed or mishandled. But over time, and we've had this word for a long time, and this role for a long time, their role's grown, it's changed, it's evolved over time, and now it includes a broad range of responsibilities that extend far beyond just preserving those artifacts or pieces that are in the collections.
Right, so to originate just means it comes from, that's the source of this word. It's from Latin cura or cura, which means to care. And yes, these were caretakers of those museum collections. but the role actually got larger.
Yeah.
It included a broad range of responsibilities. It's not just about preservation. They have other duties and responsibilities as well. Today, curators manage, organize, and interpret collections in cultural institutions like museums and libraries. Okay, I guess that's where they mainly work, in museums and libraries. They might work elsewhere, but these are the two main places that they work. They do all sorts of things. They manage, and they organize, and they interpret collections. Okay, so to manage, of course, means you handle all these things. You know where they are. You have people in charge of storing them or displaying them, and you organize them. Yeah, you figure out the order of them. We're going to show this in this room first, and then in the second room, we're going to show these words, etc. And then they also interpret the collections, which means they look at the collections as a whole and try to figure out, again, the arrangement and other factors that they need to take into consideration, like the audience's reaction. I suppose they also need to figure out where to put the really star attraction, in which room, so that it doesn't get too crowded or that people can see it. This is all part of what they do.
And of course, they'll always start with a theme. They have this idea and they have a theme that will be used in all the publicity that goes out. Oftentimes, they'll, of course, record advertisements. Could be a print advertisement. It could be something I've seen on YouTube. I've seen advertisements for museums on YouTube or Facebook. So they'll have themes. They have to decide which artists to include, what historical periods to focus on. So in their work, curators collaborate closely with conservators, educators, and designers. So they're working with other people to bring to life these exhibitions. They're a lot of work and they cost a lot of money. If you collaborate, you're working closely with somebody, and the person you work with is called your collaborator. Maybe you want to write a song, but you don't know how to write lyrics. You're really good with music. So you write the melody. You look around for a collaborator. Who can write my lyrics for me? Who can I work with that they'll understand where I'm coming from, that the lyrics will match the music? That's a collaborator. So they collaborate closely with other people. A conservator is somebody who makes sure those artifacts are taken care of. And if they have some sort of damage, it's the conservator that goes out and tries to get that repaired. Maybe they hire specialists to repair it, or maybe they can do it themselves. Educators are people who probably have PhDs in that field, and then they can get more information from them. And a designer is going to put those collections together so they look beautiful. The curator doesn't have to do all this, himself or herself.
Right, so this is basically a manager who coordinates with all these people, the conservatives, the teachers, and the designers. And then they want to create displays for the audience that are both engaging and informative, enhancing the public's appreciation for each collection. So again, they want to put this together and make it interesting for the viewers. It has to be engaging. The people need to be interested in the artifact in order to want to learn more about it and to read the information about it and to look at it from many different sides. It also needs to be informative, which means they actually learn something from it. And of course, the public will be appreciated, or they will appreciate the value of the collection. To appreciate something means to recognize the value of something. It won't be just something to go see. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Okay, let's go home. No, they can actually go in there and say, oh, wow, that's cool. How did they make that? It's interesting the way they use that paint on that ceramic vase or whatever, or how that artist used brush strokes there at the top of the painting. Yes, you can get an appreciation, all because of what the curator does.
There's a great Netflix show that I saw a couple of years ago called Victoria and Albert's Museum. I think it's just Victoria and Albert, perhaps. But each episode was about curators and also conservators, educators, designers, how they put together these displays. It was fascinating. I have a friend here in Taiwan who works with one of the big museums, and I sent it on to her, the link to her, because it was just so interesting. You can see what they do all day in museums, how they have to wash clothes carefully that are 200, 300 years old, how little teddy bear, stuffed teddy bear that was the stuffed toy of a famous person in history. he had an ear that was coming off, how they'd sew it back on. It was fascinating. So if you are interested in this sort of thing, look online. There are programs that they've taken the time to write and produce, record, that you can check into so you can see the kind of daily work that goes on. So we're going to continue talking about this, guys, but first, we're going to take a few minutes and listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hello everyone, 我是派老师。今天讲解的是4月14号 Unit 8 How Curators Bring Museums to Life。这是一篇篇章结构的练习题，介绍的是博物馆的策展人。大家上次去博物馆看展览是什么时候呢？有没有想过，这么多的展览品，到底是谁挑出来展现在我们的面前呢？这些展品其实他们是有一定的排列顺序的，可是为什么要这样子排？为什么要规划这样子的动线？所以还有整体的展场，这些视觉到底是如何规划的？其实以上的林林总总都会影响到参观的人在展览当中观赏的体验。那参观者体验是否愉快，是否感到很充实，其实都跟策展人的心思息息相关。这篇文章就是在讲策展人的。好，那我们一起来解题吧。不过解题前，我要跟大家再强调，答题的时候呢，先看一下备答的选项，心里面呢要有个印象，那去想想有哪一些句子可以选。那有些时候这些选项是可以粗略的排个顺序，因为有些句子看起来就像是会在文章的开头，有一些看起来就像是结尾，比较像结论。不过最重要的原则，答题原则就是在文意上要能够承先启后，所以请记住前后连贯，文意通顺是我们答题的原则。好，那我们一起来看第一题。第二段第二个句子，前一句提到策展人这个字呢，源于拉丁语的 cura C-U-R-A， 它所指的就是去照顾。那空格后的句子，如今策展人在博物馆和图书馆这些文化机构当中，负责的是管理、组织，甚至于呢去诠释他们的馆藏。空格的句子应该要衔接策展人到底最早是什么时候开始，它的起源，还有呢到了现代策展人的职责。那选项 D 最初策展人他刚开始呢只是博物馆馆藏品的看守者，不过随着时间不断的演变，那策展人的角色呢也慢慢的扩展，那远远超出原本就只是去保存这些馆藏这个范畴。那 D 加进去以后，文意连贯通顺，所以第一题正确答案选 D。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, let's continue with our explanation over today's lesson. What do curators do? Again, we talked about what they collaborate or who they collaborate with, but they often specialize in fields such as art, science, or history, each requiring distinct expertise. So, of course, there are many different kinds of displays in different kinds of museums. When I think of display, I usually think of an art museum, but those seem to be the most common, but there are other kinds of museums. They, of course, will specialize in art. Okay, maybe they know a lot about El Greco or Picasso or whatever, but they also could specialize in history, about human history, about the hunter-gatherers of ancient civilizations, of ancient China or Mesopotamia or places like that. They'll know about history. And they also will require, for each of these fields, or for history, science, and art, they will need distinct expertise. They need to have distinct backgrounds in these fields so that they can present an exhibition that is worthwhile.
That's right. I have a friend who works for the Smithsonian Institute in D.C., the D.C. area in America. And her, I guess her area of expertise was Korean art. And they hired her to just focus on working on their Korean art collections in D.C. So, but there are museums for airplanes. There are museums for weaponry. Weaponry is a museum I went to here in Taiwan, I went to see just an exhibition about all ancient weapons from China and Taiwan. It was amazing. So whatever your interest is, if you really like history in particular and want to be a curator, it's something you can look into. You can have a background in just about anything, really. An art curator, for instance, might focus on assembling works. So if you assemble something, you put things together. So they're going to assemble works for modern art exhibition. And again, you could be hired to do a specific exhibition or exhibit, depending on what they're looking for. Maybe you don't work for the museum full time. Maybe you work for different places, or maybe you're a professor. They're getting people from a lot of different places to combine and collaborate and work together to put these designs and exhibits together. Now, a science curator might arrange natural specimens to educate and inspire viewers. So you're going to be working on specimens. We use this word for different fields. We use it for medicine when the doctor needs to check your blood and urine. They'll ask for specimens of those things to do tests on, to run tests on. But here we're talking about an individual animal. It could be a plant. It could be a piece of rock that they put together. They often have rock collections, and they need science experts who can curate those and help educate and inspire the viewers or the visitors who come to see them.
Indeed. Okay, so that's what they might do if you're a science curator. Here in the next paragraph, it says, the role of a curator is fulfilling but challenging. Okay, so of course, if you choose this as a career, yes, you can get a lot out of it. It's not a boring office job where you just sort through documents all day long. You get to see different things every day. Each day on the job is different and new and exciting. So it is fulfilling. You are contributing to society, but it's also challenging. It's not an easy job. Of course, you need to put this stuff together, and you might have people who don't like the exhibition and complain about it. So, of course, you have to learn from your mistakes. And in the future, of course, you'll be able to put together exhibitions that are really successful.
You might be able to do that. It's kind of an exciting field to get into, but it is hard. There's a lot of competition. There are financial constraints as well. So when you're talking about a constraint, it's a limitation or a restriction that's been placed on you. Financial constraints just means you don't have all the money you wish you had. So you have a budget you have to work with, and we're calling it a hurdle in our article here. A hurdle is that object that is placed on a track and field in a track and field event where the runner will run around the track and then have to jump over the hurdle. Hurdle here just means something you have to get past. It's something that's obstructing you. It's getting in your way. So we've got these nonprofit sectors who are actually doing a lot of the funding, and they offer lower salaries to the curators. And that can be really challenging for those who are just starting their careers. They don't pay very much. And I think with the internships, they're free. They don't pay anything.
Indeed, but of course you can put it on your resume and use it for possible future jobs. But again, they don't have a lot of money. They have those financial constraints. That's a hurdle. It's an obstacle. It's something that gets in your way. So, of course, you're going to get lower salaries, or even you might even have to work for free. And this can be particularly challenging for those just starting their careers. So if you just got out of university and you need to pay back those student loans, you might not be able to pay them back for quite some time because your first jobs or entry-level jobs in curating may not pay you a lot of money. You'll barely be able to afford your rent or whatever. So indeed, that's something to take into consideration. Now here in the following paragraph, it's actually the final paragraph, it says, looking ahead, looking to the future, curatorship is evolving alongside technology. Okay, so like a lot of things, this particular career is changing with the times. Okay, technology continues to advance at leaps and bounds. Of course, we've got AI and we've got virtual reality, and they're improving all the time. So, of course, it evolves alongside those things. It grows with them.
If you've been online lately and if you've gone to some museum websites, You notice, I'm sure, that they've put together some virtual reality tours online. So some of the people that can't get there to the museum, maybe it's too far away, or they're homebound, they have, problems with disabilities, you can go online and see some of these exhibits. And they do a pretty good job. I've watched a couple of them. But you know what? AI still can't replace humans. So there's a lot that human beings bring to the curator role that just computers can't yet, at least. So you need some essential skills if you want to go into this line of work. You need critical thinking, cultural awareness, and artistic insight. Human beings are often inspired with just these brilliant ideas that come to them. All of these things remain at the heart of this role of being a curator. So if it's something you're really wanting to do, don't give up. Just work hard, see if you can do it.
Indeed, sir. The next time you visit a museum or gallery, take a moment to appreciate the curator's vision that makes each exhibit come alive. So yes, indeed, look at the exhibition as a whole and wonder, how did the curator come up with this exhibition? They didn't just appear out of thin air. Somebody had to gather all these things together and think of a theme and arrange them in some kind of order and talk to experts and provide the information and write up the descriptions and things like that.
Yeah.
That's, of course, all very important. And then, of course, they also need to consider putting some of this information online. So, yeah, appreciate what they do. And that's the appreciation, of course, what makes you appreciate how each exhibit comes alive. And that's what you see in a museum. An exhibit. Exhibition is the longer form. I tend to think of the exhibition as the thing as a whole, whereas the smaller things are the actual exhibits.
Notice that the writer here is using the same sort of idea in the title and the ending. How curators bring museum to life. You bring something to life, or something comes to life. So hopefully this gave you a taste of what a curator does, and you can look into it further if you have a lot of interest. Right now, we're going to use our remaining time to listen to our Chinese teacher.
紧接着我们看第二题，这是第3段开头的第一个句子，相当于主题句，段落的核心大意。那后面的句子提到，举例来说，艺术策展人可能会专注在替现代艺术展览要去搜集作品，那科学策展人呢，要负责的就是安排这些自然的标本，那主要就是希望能够教育社会大众，启发他们。那 B, curators often specialize in fields such as art, science, or history, each requiring distinct expertise. 意思就指策展人呢，通常他要对艺术、科学或历史等领域学有专精。那每个领域呢，都需要有不同的专业知识。这句话点出了策展人其实呢是具有高度的专业的。那引出下一句的例子，让我们的句子整篇文章看起来是文艺前后连贯的。所以第二题我们选 B。接着请看第3题，请同学看第4段。根据这里呢讲到策展人的工作非常充实，不过呢其实也充满挑战，所以我们可以预期空格的句子应该是跟策展人工作上会遇到哪些挑战有关。那后面一句也提到策展人必须要解决财务上的困难。那选项 E, the field is highly competitive with limited positions available, especially in smaller institutions or for specific types of collections. 策展这个领域很竞争，职缺并不多，尤其在比较小的机构或特定类型的收藏品方面。好，那这个句子当作我们的正确答案，能够自然融入前后文的脉络。第3题正确答案我们选 E。 最后呢，请同学看到第4题，在最后一段，这个段落在讲的是科技日新月异，策展这项专业当然也会随之演进改变。前一句提到人工智慧还有虚拟实境替展览设计带来新的可能性，而社群媒体也改变了艺术触及乐听大众的方式。后一句则说， 那你下次参观博物馆或画廊的时候，花点时间去欣赏策展人的愿景，看看策展人如何在大众面前让展品呢是充满生命力的。前句的重点是在讲运用新科技，后一句呢要参观的人能够看到策展人独到的眼光，因此我们可以推知这一句要总结科技，还有呢策展它的核心技能，两者是需要平衡的。所以第4题的正确答案选 A. Yet, the essential skills of critical thinking, cultural awareness, and artistic insight remain at the heart of this role. 然而，批判性思考、文化的涵养和艺术的洞察力，这些都是属于策展人的核心技能。那一样是策展最重要的核心，依然是策展最重要的核心。好，那以上就是我们针对这篇篇章结构练习题所做的中文讲解。希望同学透过练习，会更加熟悉如何的去解篇章结构的题目。See you next time.
We're at the end of our lesson for today. Hopefully, we have inspired you to head to your nearest museum and check it out. And remember to appreciate the work of those curators. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.